Yeah.
And welcome to the regular town council meeting for April 15th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 4, adoption of the minutes. I look for a motion from the council to adopt the meeting minutes from April 1st, 2025.
I'll make a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes of April 1st, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the audience or from the council regarding the meeting minutes from April 1st? Yes, ma'am. Can you state your name? And...
Sure, Shelley Conley.
Yeah.
In regards to I think it was 2534 resuming maintenance of the village cemetery.
Yeah.
For the past 10 years, the scouts have been putting out the flags and taking them down, and we just recently started taking them down. And I don't know who to contact anymore and about arranging it where Mr. Snow has retired. Yeah. And such. So I would hope that first off, the flags are still being ordered.
Yes.
And then how to obtain them so that the troop in the pack can put them out.
Yeah, I think I would direct you to Jack, town manager.
Yep. If I can have your contact information, then I can let you know when we have them and we can coordinate it with the person. That'll be doing it.
Okay. I mean, we can, if they're just left out, we can do it. We don't need people there, especially if they're not going to be positive role models for my scouts.
Sure. Yep, we can make that happen. No problem.
Mr. Snow is wonderful, and I know that he's retired. His wife works at my school.
Sure.
And he would educate the boys and stuff, and that wasn't our experience the last time.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can make that happen again.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, no problem. Thank you. Were there any other comments regarding meeting minutes from April 1st? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of adoption of the minutes from April 1st, 2025, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Adoption of those minutes have passed. Moving on to item number 5, there is none. Item number 6, there's none. We'll move on to item number 7, town manager's report.
Quite a bit going on as usual. Doing things pertaining to the current budget process week to week as we have our meetings. We got the financing closed on the truck that we are purchasing for the water and sewer departments. I was able to have a meeting with our insurance agents, go over our policy and make sure things were up to date and equipment list was up to date and things like that. And so we're going over that to make sure we have everything on there and anything that shouldn't be on there isn't, and probably bring back some recommendations on a few coverage changes to the council, just to probably make a little more sense than what we have on some of the lines on that. I was able to attend a meeting with the MDOT. Jared, I think, has been the person that you're familiar with on the VPI project, talking about the design phase and funding and timing and basically the funding sources that they were looking for the design phase of the VPI aren't gonna materialize in time to get the design going in 2025. Their more likely scenario is that they would secure the funding, get an RFP out for the consultant that's gonna do the design and basically tee this up for 2026 design work. So that's different than I think what we were expecting. I think we're expecting in 2025 we'd be right, you know, knee deep in the design work, but that's timeline's not working that way. One of the issues, and it's not really causing that so much, but one of the sources that that they are looking for to get this funding, get this design phase going, was the grant that we talked about a few months ago to be to have the, you know, commitment letter and support letter for the grant. And there was a glitch, and you might have seen it in the paper. There was a write-up about it. There was a glitch in the portal that they were using to submit that grant application. And they think that might reopen and they can resubmit in May, but still it's not going to change the timeline for getting all the funding lined up on their end of it, and then getting the consultant and just making it more realistic that it's a 2026 design, and so that, you know, we can just plan accordingly. But we do have our share of funding secured for that.
Are we at risk of using any of the other, there's some different things that were cobbled together and make the project work. Are we at risk of using any of those other sources?
So I'm getting up to speed on the northern border, which I think is what you're thinking of. The northern border does try to fit into that. I'm not sure it's going to fit very well now. I'm trying to see what that, because we got an extension on the northern border. We had to apply for it and be granted an extension. So I just need to see how far into 2026 we have with northern border, and whether or not we could do maybe if we can get going under the northern border, maybe get another small extension to make, you know, get the full utilization. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah. We opened bids last week on Sebasco Street and Crawford Road culvert projects, and didn't have a review by our engineer in time for the agenda, but I'm hoping that we'll have those bids. There's one bidder, but separate bids for both jobs. Hoping to have that recommendation on our next agenda for awarding that. You might remember last year, probably at this time, we put in a SEDS application, CDS, congressionally directed spending application. Those are applications that go directly to our congressional staff members. And we put it in for the Honeywell water main loop project, and we were not successful last year. These opened up really quick in a pretty tight window. So this opened up again. Talked to Annalise, and she suggested that, you know, in this level of time frame, to resubmit for that same project that we tried for, because we have, I think she said we have a little over $900,000 that we can use to that project, which would be hopefully what our match would be. So we were able to get those submitted, and we'll just, I guess, see if we make it through the first cut. First cut is whether it leaves our congressional delegation in terms of what they bring to Washington to bring before the full committee, but they kind of go through, and it's pretty competitive. But sometimes the second time around is the charm. Sometimes it doesn't take three, it just is the second time. So we have that in the pipeline now. And we're gearing up for a smooth transition with everything this month in terms of our website. Our current website is actually the proxy host for our emails. So the conversion involves website, emails, and then we have our IT consultant that's basically going to take over the phone service. So we're going to have our technology basically with one phone call to deal with email, telephone, website, you know, whatever. So that's going to be a savings and a lot more reliability. And one thing we're finding with this is we're finding a few copper landlines that we don't need, and we're able just to delete those off. So we talked about telephones last week, and we're seeing that getting rid of a few lines here and there that we don't need. There's no save. So, yeah.
Excellent, thank you, Jared.
Yep.
Letter B, there's department head reports, those are in your packet and on your desk. I don't know if there's any questions on those from anybody. Yeah, Heather.
Some of them are missing. We don't have, one from police, recreation, administration, I guess would be Jeff's. Nothing reports.
Police is on your desk.
I missed getting a few of those in the packet, so I
budget
just
stuff.
logged down today.
Water sewer, I saw in the, invoicing that they have like a list of things. They usually submit something, so, and then code inspection, there was a bunch of, like issues that were outstanding that Russell had been giving us updates on that we haven't had updates on in a couple months.
Okay, I can, make sure we cover that.
Okay.
All set?
Yep.
Yep. Moving on to item number 8, old business, there's none. Item number 9, new business. Nicole, would you like to read resolution 2539?
So that the town council approved the issuance of a request for proposals for the purchase of snow removal equipment to include a snow plow for the Pittsfield Municipal Airport.
Look for a motion from the council.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2539.
Moved and seconded. Jack or Caleb want to speak to this resolution at all, or background?
There was a ton of information in the packet, so that was helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe Caleb could just tell us about the old snow plow and why it's gonna be a huge benefit to get a new one.
So, the current equipment that we have, we got all in, around 2005. The FAA did like a big purchase of, loaders, snow plows and snow blowers. And the snow blower is basically an attachment that goes on the front of the loader. It's not a separate piece of or it's not a separate, a completely separate vehicle, it needs to attach to the loader. So, so we still have those exact same pieces that we were given back in, or not given, but we were able to purchase through the FAA's I think the town's match was maybe 2% or 2.5% back then. So we still have all that same equipment. It's all working really pretty well. And we have Jack Wright to thank for that, and Chimbro to thank for that, and probably some of my creativity, and but really more those guys that really they just know how to make things work, and they just make it happen. And so the plow is one of the issues with the plow is that it doesn't have a trip edge on it, so it just is like it's a solid piece of steel that just when it hits something that doesn't move like plows always do, it just doesn't have that built-in trip edge like most plows have. And it's cracked the plow out, and Chimbro and Frank Woodworth played a big role with this last time around, helping us get creative. I mean, Jack came down to the airport yesterday, and I went and showed him all the different upgrades we've done to the plow. And last time, and it's all really good stuff because we've been using it for 20 years. And last time Chimbro saw it a couple of years ago, they were like, "Yeah, we're done. Like you guys have done so many." Like me, it's good what you guys have done, but like it's just past the life of it. And just a quick note, a couple of years ago we had a lot of trouble with it, and I called around because I remember the truck when it came. It had a whole bunch of these plows on it. And I called around to those other airports and I said, "What are you guys doing? What how are you solving this? The company's not around anymore. How are you doing this?" And they're like, "We put that thing out in the backfield 10 years ago. You can come grab it if you want it." And of course, I don't. We didn't want that. But so when we started talking to the FAA about things that we needed at the airport through their funding program, that's when we told them that we really could use a new plow. The loader is still fine and running great. It looks amazing. Compared to what we used to run down there to plow and snow blow when I was a little kid, the stuff is like Starship Enterprise. So, and you know, it's been maintained well, but so when we talked to the FAA about it, they said we were certainly eligible for a new snow plow. And the snowplow that we put in this bid is a Fisher, or we can't exactly say, but it's it's modeled after like a Fisher plow with a trip edge, and it has two wings on it that can like close, so it can either be a box, which really works well for us down at the airport these last couple 2 or 3 years, because I mean we've been getting 2-inch snowstorms that are 80% of what we get. So instead of just winging it to one direction and trying to keep winging it, you know, we'll be able to close the box and like push it, which would be really nice. So, yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience on resolution 2539? Hearing none, are there any questions from the council? Resolution 2539.
Caleb, the loader that you're talking about, was that 2004?
Okay, 2004. Yeah.
Was it 2004? Okay.
Yeah.
And you said that's running fine, even though it's 20-something years old?
Yeah, no, we've, we try to be pretty smart about it. It doesn't run much during the summertime, but we always take it out and run it around on the closed runway once a month for about an hour, just to get it up to like temperature and stuff. We do need some tires for it. Those are pretty much, they're not dry rotted, but they're just getting worn out. So I think we'll probably try to sneak that into the budget at like some point. But yeah, no, the loader's doing really good. I mean, everything on it works. The heated windshield. It was a really fancy one 20 years ago. It was quite an upgrade.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2539, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2539 passes. Nicole, can you please read resolution 2540?
Resolved that the town council approve the issuance of a request for proposals for remarking of the airfield pavement for the Pittsfield Municipal Airport.
Look for a motion from the council.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2540.
Moved and seconded. Anything you need to add to this resolution, or pretty self-explanatory, I guess? Just mark.
Yeah, it was supposed to be marked a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having to cut funding in order to make the hangar project numbers come together.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay.
It's just overdue. You can hardly see it, so it's good.
Sure. Are there any questions from the audience on resolution 2540? There are none. Any questions from the council on resolution 2540?
Curious, what's the average cost for that?
Oh shoot, if I had that on the email. I do not know. I know that he sent us estimated costs, that Shane had sent us estimated costs in a email. If you would give me a minute here, maybe. He had sent us some estimated costs for that. Okay, I got it, I think. Remarking runway. So total runway remarking, he is estimated at 76,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other questions from the council? Resolution 2540. Here.
Is there a line in the budget for this?
That's actually a great lead into who's paying for that, right?
Right.
So that is that's an FAA grant. So we work with the FAA on projects that need to be done down at the airport, and they earmark a certain amount of money to be spent that needs to be approved by them, and you have to go through all this engineering process and use all their people and stuff like that. And so I think this is actually BIL money, but it's very similar. You know, basically the town has to match it. I think our match is around 2.5%. I think the FA is doing 95 and the state does 2.5, and then we do 2.5. But it's basically we get inspected every year, and it's part of our thing that we're supposed to keep up with the FA standards to have the runway and the airport kind of be. That's kind of the agreement that the FAA made with us when we accept. And so they provide this like money as long as it's being spent on things that they approve, and runway markings is one of the things that they approve.
So it's small, but is the 2.5% in our budget?
Yeah, it's really, we have it set aside.
Okay.
The airport.
When do you wanna spend the money, Caleb?
So how this works is it goes out to bid, and then we're supposed to have bid opening here later this month, and when somebody's selected, then it goes out to the FAA, and the FAA typically takes forever to actually like assure the like grant to like actually grant it. So I suspect that it normally happens in about August. You know, these guys move really fast.
Supposed to be next year's budget then.
No, we should be able to have it. We're kind of hoping that we'll be able to do it this year. Anyways, is kind of what
It's already money we've set aside for airport improvements, so we don't have to add any new money.
The second half of 20 budget.
Yeah, it's money from past appropriations. Okay, we set aside for the airport. Yeah.
I just know with the budget laying out from June to June, so it's gonna impact.
No. Okay. No, not the CIP.
Right, because it's already been in there.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions from the council? So it's 130 page submittal just to show us that like it's. Like, is that all like the specs? Because I'm not gonna go through it all, but is that all just like the specs and all the FAA stuff?
Yeah, it's the FAA's boilerplate, you know, requirement to put together the specs and.
I went through it. What do you want to know? I know a lot. I was like, is this still the lowest?
It costs 20,000 to paint it, it costs 50 to go through the specs.
Yeah. That's one of the things that's the most frustrating about everything to do with the airport.
Yeah.
Is that the like standards are the same for Pittsfield as Boston Logan.
Wow.
So they have to like everything like, I don't know. I mean, I could talk for hours about this stuff, but I mean, it's just good.
We trust you around.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is frustrating.
Nothing to allow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Are there any other questions from the council? Hearing none, I sense we're ready to vote. All those in favor of resolution 2540, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. 2540 passes. Nicole, can you please read resolution 2541?
Resolved that the town council approve the issuance of a request for proposals for repair aircraft tie down anchors for the Pittsfield Municipal Airport.
For a motion from the council?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2541.
Second.
Moved and seconded. There's pretty self-explanatory on this as well.
It is. This is another frustrating one. Back in 2008-ish, we had the main ramp done for the airport, and long story short, the design that they put in the ground for the anchors that hold the planes down, it didn't last, and it's like heaved up. And it's getting to the point now where it's Jack came out and saw it the other day. It's a pretty good safety concern, you know, as far as planes taxiing around there. And so we just, this would basically, which they've already done some. They try to piggyback these smaller grants on with like other things going on at the airport that would be a grant worthy. And they basically saw cut out like a 4x4 section and then bring in like an excavator and pick up the bad piece. And then they're gonna dig down and put a new foundation. But these ones are gonna be like there'll be a concrete, like it'll be like a precast piece that actually has footing, so it'll never be able to do that again. What they did last time was they just drilled a hole, pulled the like drill bit out, and then the dirt fell in the hole, and they just were like, ah, close enough. And they poured the concrete down in, and of course the frost around here just grabs that stuff. And this will either be precast or a plastic piece that's like a pyramid. So it'll have a dead man big base, and so and the ones that they fixed. Jack came down and saw them. The ones they fixed 5 or 6 years ago haven't moved one bit, so it'll be a good long term.
So, are there any questions from the audience on resolution 2541? Are there any questions from the council on resolution 2541?
You said it's grant funded?
With a town match, I assume?
Yes, yeah,
And that is covered in those appropriations we've already had.
No problem.
Excellent. All right, any other questions from the council? Since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2541, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2541 passed. Moving on to item number 10, discussion items. Are there any comments from the audience this evening?
Yeah, where I would chime in.
This is where you will chime in, yes, sir. Can you come up here, state your name and where you live?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah. My name is Christopher Paquette. I live at 568 Somerset Ave in Pittsfield, Maine. I am a recovering heroin addict. I am a board certified welder and I have a background in chemistry and genetics. I was born into a crime family. My father was a statutory rapist, pedophile, arsonist piece of shit. My brother drug raped and molested a younger sister and he was 21 and she was 12. All this is facilitated by drug use. We've already had two incidences in Madawaska Road. One gentleman was stabbed to death and another was shot. It's time to take action. It's time for me to man up, and it's time to help my community stomp out fentanyl. I look at it as a chemical weapon of mass destruction. No one accidentally tried cocaine and made the mistake of trying cocaine in the 80s and died of an overdose. You didn't leave your child in a daycare facility in New York to climb across the floor and have it die of a fentanyl overdose. I'm done. I am so lividly pissed. I'm willing to go with the whole Doc Holliday and friggin' Wyatt Earp on these guys' asses. I've seen what they do to our community by preying on your daughters and sons, by getting your son so strung out he can break into that house and steal a few $1,000 worth of tools, risking his life safety just to get that little $100 bag of dope. Or trick out your daughter by feeding him Roxy's when she's 16, 17, hanging out with her daughter to groom them. By the time she's 18, she's ready to suck your dick for dope.
Okay, well, you don't need to say that.
Well, sorry.
We get the point.
Yes, sir. Sorry for my discord.
Yeah.
But this is where I'm at.
Right.
I'm done. So it's time to cease and desist.
We understand, but yeah, you should refrain from foul language.
Sorry for that.
Yeah.
You just made a point.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Again, I don't really how this works, so.
No, that's good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments from the audience this evening? There. Yes, ma'am. Let's come up and state your name. And I know you already did once. But...
Yes, Shelley Conley. I'm on the Higgins Road in here in Pittsfield. So did you leave your key, by the way?
Possibly. Good. Thank you. Sorry.
So I have not, I didn't look through enough of the minutes, but it's my understanding that the town is considering scaling back considerably recycling. And I have ethical issues with that. I think that we need to be positive role models. And even though recycling might not be profitable, doesn't mean we should not do it. We should be, if we're a great community to live in, then we should be taking care of our community and setting an example by continuing recycling.
Completely agree. Thanks. Appreciate that.
One more comment. There's a bunch of trash by the interstate where I live. Am I allowed to start picking that up as like individual community service just to make my area look nice where I live? That won't get me in trouble at all?
No, pick up all the trash you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm legally disabled, so I'm going to find work, but I gotta keep myself busy somehow by doing something, right?
Yeah. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none. Pete, any questions, comments?
Nothing to me.
Nothing tonight. Heather? Nothing? Natalia?
Caleb, thanks for all of the information that you have and maintain and share with us. Thank you for keeping us informed. We trust the airport's in good hands with you, so just appreciate it very much.
Sorry, I missed the last meeting there. I was like one of those days. I was like, oh shoot, the meeting. So
It's okay.
no,
It
that was
happens.
the
All good.
yeah. Sorry.
It happens.
Yep.
No problem, thank you.
Yep.
All set?
Mm-hmm.
Eric?
Good.
No comment? And I don't really have a comment tonight either, other than thank you for the information and keeping the airport running and good to go. Thank you for everybody who attended. Appreciate it. If you'd like to stick around, we have budget review tonight for a bunch of topics. If not, you can certainly let yourselves out, but we will move on to budget review. And
Mr. Kluge, what's the best way to give you my contact information so that we can prepare the cemetery for Memorial Day?
You can, just email it to me, town manager, Pittsfield.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We have Caleb is here. I'll have to try to expedite people that are sitting here, so I guess we got airport and library. Is that the two folks that are here? All right, we will go I'll go in the order that they are. So airport would be first on page 30. Flip to that. Thanks, we'll pretty much, if counselors have questions or comments on specific line items, I think we can ask Caleb for anything that we might have.
We have what we have for revenue for the airport.
Yeah, it should be up on the front there. On for airport. Where's airport?
Left side line under 18.
Revenue 35,000.
Yeah, that's column 6.
On 6, 35,000.
Yeah.
Corporations at 36,500. A net of 1,500 bucks.
That's, yeah, I think a lot of that 35,000 must be, or not a lot, but some of it must be from the hangar rent that we're getting and stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be, I can
Yeah.
tell you.
You see that, Pete?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see that.
Well, that was one of the exciting things about getting the like hangar was it was going to be one of our first revenue generating, like $800 coming in, which is awesome. You know, most communities that have an airport will like tell you that it doesn't pay for itself on the like budget. It just doesn't like work that way.
Are most communities municipal owned, or are they?
Yes, yeah, actually, that's a really good question. Yeah, most of, so like, you know, like you would probably compare us to, well, yes, actually every airport in the state of Maine that has a paved runway and lighting is municipally owned.
Okay.
But then if you compare us to places like Dexter, Norwalk, Greenville, you know, Holton, you know, like areas that are probably similar in like some ways to us. We have some. It would be a really interesting study. Not that we have time to get into all this, but you know, one of the ways that we save money down at the airport is Jack and I, and the town manager and I work together a lot to like share the duties, so that we don't have to have an airport manager, like a separate airport manager. Even small communities have airport managers so there are no employees down at the airport that are town employees, which is great. That saves a lot.
Sure.
Yeah. Which is why our budget is probably the smallest out of anybody's, like, our size, and I'm quite proud of that, because it's really, we get creative on how to figure things out, and it shows, I think.
Yeah, definitely does.
So the, one of the increases is in electricity, is that because of the additional hangar or electric rates?
Probably a little bit of both. Yeah, definitely because of the hangar. And then, I mean, just like everybody's seeing, you know, like electric rates just have gone up too, so.
And do we have, I know we've done, LED lighting through Main Street, do we have street light expenses out there? Have those also been changed over to the LEDs?
All the lights that are on the building for the new hangar are all LED. Yeah.
And are the older hangars, cause we have other hangars that are town owned, right? There's older.
So the only other building down at the airport that's town owned is the snow removal equipment building. And that does not have LED lights in it, that has halogen lights, but there's only like 4 of them. And it's not on a lot.
Just in the winter.
Yeah, it's just on a little bit.
One thing I wanna note is under telephone, we can zero that out, we don't need the 800. That's one of the lines that is no longer being used. And it did go to that beacon.
It did.
Because that phone number went to Burnham, and that's the beacon there.
Yeah,
So.
we used to have an old approach Navi type thing that was out in Burnham, and it was owned by the town, and that needed to have a landline going to it. And it was just one of those things that Catherine and I talked about several times, and I don't know why it never got canceled, but yeah.
It's canceled now.
That's good.
Yeah, do we not have that beacon anymore, or is it because of navigation has changed with satellites and stuff that it's just not needed?
So honestly, out of all my talks, I don't know who owns the building, because I think there's a structure out there that was actually like the actual Navade. And no, it was, the FA stopped using them primarily like probably 17 or 18 years ago, and then we kept ours up, and in fact we were one of the only places that had one up and like going for up till probably like 5 or 6 years ago. So we used to actually have people come here just to shoot our approach, because it was kind of like an antique, you know, it was like, you know, it was kind of a dorky thing, but it was kind of what they did. And now it's just so old, and it's like it stopped working, and so it's completely decommissioned now. But I have no idea what that building in Burnham, if the town owns property there, or they just leased it, or what happens. Yeah. It's kind of
look into.
Kind of sad to say, but I don't know anything about it. Yeah.
The snow removal we probably pay you guys to remove the snow, I would guess. That's how that works.
So right now, under my contract that I have with the town to kind of be like the airport manager down there, which if people have questions about that, we can talk about that sometime. It's pretty straightforward and easy. But so we do the snow removal down at the airport, and Jack and I spent about half an hour or so talking about this the other day too. And how that works. For the last 20 years, we've been blessed to have just really 2 guys that have done that job for us. And it was Jack Wright and then Scott Braley. And Scott's saying that this year he really wants us to be his last year, being the one that's fully responsible for that. And he was gonna try to find somebody. Jack, you know, you guys know Jack. I mean, he was just like, oh, this is my responsibility to find the next person for you. Yeah, he always used to say it was the loneliest place on the earth when you're down there plowing at like night and it's all dark. The way, you know, that down at the end of the runway. Like, I did some of my best soul searching down there. He said it. But so
put that in the advertisement.
Yeah.
You can
really find yourself.
Place on earth.
Yeah, you can really find yourself down at
the end of that runway. But so I guess the thing that Jack and I talked about was just my concern with being able to find somebody that's gonna, be reliable and, you know, want to do it for the rates that like we have set up, right now. So I'm gonna try to hit that pretty hard and like try to figure out that in the first half of the summer, not the second half of the summer. And I just heard from Scott a couple weeks ago that this will be his last. He's kind of been like tempting me a little bit, but then, I went in the loader hangar the other day and he had a kind of couple of photos up with Scott Braley, and 2015 was the end of his, that was the end of his tenure, so, yeah, I mean, 2015 to 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's town equipment, so, I mean, technically we could have Public Works operate that equipment and clear runways.
Yeah,
Or
I mean, it's just, it's our equipment and it's, you know, putting somebody in it.
Just thinking if we're in a bind and we don't
Yeah.
find anybody.
Yep.
We have people on payroll that do that.
Yeah,
right?
and we also talked about like, ways that it might be quicker and easier in the future to get that all cleaned up. One of them was that the plow itself is gonna be more efficient with the articulating, plow on there. And the other thing is Caleb mentioned that years ago, when we had a contracted plow route over that way, they'd make a few passes to get the runway into two windrows. With just a couple of passes with a wheeler and a wing. And then once it's done that, it's easier just to pick up with a snow blower and it's quicker.
Yeah.
So that might be something too that, you know, the town crew could just make a couple of passes through there and get it teed up and save some time down there and save, you know, some of the money.
There's no question that it's faster to have a wheeler with a wing go down the runway like 3 or 4 times and just bust stuff open and just have a loader. You know, just loaders, you know, they're just not as fast as, now everywhere else, it's better to have a loader, but just going in a straight line up and down the runway be faster with a truck, especially with the storms that we're getting. So that was one of the things that would be good, see if we could incorporate that, and then maybe if it's gonna cost us more to bring somebody else in, you know, that'll kind of get offset. So that's why, that's great, yeah. Trying to come up with the best guess, I guess.
Sure. Okay. Are there any other questions on the airport budget? Anybody? All right. Hearing none, I guess we are good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, bud. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. We will move on to the library. We have folks in the library. And that is on page 33. Are any specific questions for Donna this evening? Yes, I have one quick one on 1515 building and plant. See, that's gone up to 6,000. Never been over 3,000. Is there some kind of maintenance that we're anticipating, or are we just kind of hedging our bets, or?
Both. No, the building's getting older.
Yeah.
Those cost more money.
Yeah.
That was actually at Donnie Schutz's recommendation. Right off the bat, as soon as we get a new budget, I have an HVAC system with a motor that they thought needed a new bearing. The motor needs to be replaced.
Okay.
So that's gonna be $1,200 as soon as I can get it fixed.
Sure.
And I don't have the money in the budget now. You know,
Yeah, I
this
see.
was the 6-month budget.
Yeah, I see that.
I
Yep.
don't have enough to do it.
Yep. Okay.
Were you really holding off doing this because we don't have the money? It needs to be replaced, like, it's like working right now, or is it like?
It's working, it needs
Okay.
to be replaced. The HVAC company said I could hold off until, they came last month. They said it wouldn't hurt to leave it till June.
Okay,
Okay.
So rather than go over budget, I was like, we'll leave it till June.
all right.
But there's some more HVAC work besides just that motor too, right? Cause you show me something that they had a list.
Eventually capital stuff, that's much more, but this is
Yeah.
just.
Condensers, I think, is another issue, but
Okay.
yeah.
That makes sense. No, I was just curious, I saw a little jump and I was kind of curious about it. Are there any other questions regarding the library?
Did the window project get finished? Maybe that's capitals versus operating budget.
No, it isn't finished. I actually got an email today. They're trying to schedule. We're waiting for the weather to improve. We need painting done and it can't be done until it's consistent 40. So, I believe that's going to happen at the end of this month. He's gonna start, Steve Dion?
Yes.
Correct. And then when he's finished, the windows will be put in around June 7th. And then he'll paint the outside and the storms will be reinstalled.
Okay. And the increase in wages, is that just like scalable increases versus adding more positions?
It's not adding any more hours, no, and it's not. In the past,
3%.
with me being director, I had no idea what was being put into the budget. Nobody's ever told me. I knew it was our positions. I didn't know if subs were being included, and I asked Jack about all of this, so.
So is the numbers that we have before us just better representation of time that's needed then?
Yes.
Is there IT services different than the town services? Shouldn't it all be together, or is it just separate, is it a separate building?
We actually, there's just in the past been, kind of a proration of those services across different departments.
Okay,
That's something to consider if, we centralize, things, you could centralize basically communications as a whole, phone, IT,
right,
stuff like that, but it has been spread out.
yeah, I was just seeing that 2505 was contracts and rentals, that jumped $10,000 from anything we've ever spent.
Where?
On page 35, contracts and rentals. Nearly $10,000 more than anything we ever spent. I just wasn't sure why that might have been. See, HVAC was 6,200. Consortium minimum, what is that?
Consortium?
Yeah, membership, 5 grand.
Or the library, yeah, membership.
Yeah, the consortium
Just to be
membership
part of a,
is part of the software that we use for cataloging and circulation.
okay. IT services, 4 grand. Just the cost of operation, I guess, pretty much. Have we seen a jump in that stuff?
Yes, did
Yeah.
you get my breakdown sheet on that?
Well, yeah, I do see it, yeah. I just don't know it from like previous years, other than the total, I see the total went up,
Yes.
10 grand, but I don't.
The elevator inspection contract, never goes up usually. It's always been less than 4%, so I just use 4%.
Sure, yeah.
For an increase for that. The elevator license, I was told, was going to increase, and so that's why I increased that. And we have a new van delivery fee for interlibrary loans. The state used to pay that for us. That's $2,200 for 1 day of van delivery a week for the year. And they're asking us to kick in $110 this year, so that has been added in, and everything else was increased at 10%. Which probably won't come to pass, but again, I'd rather have the money there than.
Yeah.
No.
Because
Is the HVAC like just a contractual amount for them to be responsive?
Yes, they come do all the maintenance.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, the budgeted amount for 2025 is basically the same for that line, but the actual spend has never been that high.
right, that's what I'm, yeah,
So I don't know where,
that's what I'm saying.
where it is.
And through 3 months of this
Mhm,
year, they've only spent, $3 grand.
right.
So say $1,000 a month,
Do
but
you have some of these contractuals that seasonally happen later in the spring? Like,
Yeah, some of them happen at different times, but like the cleaning contract, our share of that is like $12,000. So, there's almost half of it.
Mhm.
right, but that hasn't, I mean, that's all, you've always had that cleaning contract, haven't you?
Yes,
Kind of,
we have.
to an extent.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not to this extent, but. Yeah, it just jumped out at me a little bit, I guess. The other one, and this isn't, I'm not trying to like scrutinize the numbers other than. Like, you look at electricity, 3005, through 3 months, electricity bill was 9 grand.
I can't confirm that. I've never seen an electricity bill.
No, I know you haven't, but I'm just saying like that, no, I'm not,
We do have very large heat.
I know you're the library director, but some of these questions are really more for.
Is that the primary source of heat?
Just kind of in general. Oh, yeah.
Primary heat.
I think so. We have
Oh,
oil, but I.
Oh, is it
feel like
electric
the
heat?
is-
Oh, do you have heat pumps? You have
We
heat
do,
pumps?
2 huge ones.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's the difference.
That's not a good deal.
No, it's not a
Heat
good
pumps in
deal.
the wintertime, I mean, it's supposed to be ultra efficient, they're just not.
They're not, no.
You have to pull heat out of cold air, it's.
Yeah, and I've
Long
not, yeah,
term, I mean, that's a lot of money, I mean, that would raise my eyebrows too.
especially with the way electricity is going right now. I mean, I have one heat pump that has to heat a certain area of the house, and it's just, it kills me.
I don't
That one
even
area.
use mine in the winter.
I wouldn't either, but that's the only
When it gets below
option
20
I've got
degrees,
there.
like all the efficiency's gone.
Yeah.
Below 20.
How long did that go?
I think perhaps they were installed when the renovation was done in 2009.
Yeah.
So that's just, well, I mean, I guess, but CMP's gone through the roof, so.
Right.
But that's a scary number for 3 months.
We can also check and make sure that there's just not another electric bill coded to that by mistake. Sometimes a miscode can throw it a line off.
Sure,
So we'll check for that.
cause your 18 grand's gonna get
Yeah, that's gone.
blown out of the water too.
Yeah.
Although in the summer, you use them,
She must use them for cooling.
yeah, but they're a lot more efficient then, so.
Yeah.
It'll be. Yeah, that number just shocked me. $1,000 a month, or $3,000 a month.
Has the library been pretty busy?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
A lot of volume every day.
Yesterday, just a regular Monday, no school vacation, no special programs. And we had 50 people in the library before noon. That's 2 hours.
Do you
great.
see an increase in the number of people that come when it's raining out?
Actually, it's a decrease.
Really?
Nobody wants to get
They're not
wet.
leaving the house.
I'm gonna go do inside, okay. And how long have you been the director there?
I think it's August of 2023.
Oh, that's great.
And the only other one was telephones. Have you found any more telephones?
Yeah, I saw
I
telephones
think
really
there was
high
one,
too.
I think there was one.
Was there one?
3036, was that a defunct fax line?
Yeah, I think there was one number we found at the library we could.
But that's a,
Are faxes still a thing, like people still send faxes?
oh, we fax at work, yeah.
Well, you don't need it.
They're electronic now, you don't have to get paper. You don't get paper, it like
Right.
goes to your computer.
Is internet part of that telephone line?
No, it's not. Our internet's provided by the Maine State Library.
So we don't pay for that?
No, you've never paid for that. That's been done for about 30 years now.
So 4,000 in telephones, that's a ton.
Wow,
We should dig into that. How many
well,
telephone
that
lines?
sounds like we found one.
We have at least 2.
That's good.
One is for the emergency phone in the elevator, and the other one is for the fire alarm box. It has to self-test and it sends a communication signal out by
Sure.
phone.
And
And
then you
the
have
other one is our main.
your main phone number.
Yeah.
That,
So those are 2 copper lines there, and that's more than half of that.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
As long as you looked into it and
Yeah.
It is what it is. I
We're
mean-
digging, trying to dig everything
Yeah,
up.
that's fine.
You'll keep them covered.
Just those, yeah. Some of those built, wild. Um,
But between the 20, if I wanna lead with, I love the library, right? I'm just gonna scrutinize numbers because that's why we're here. But between 24 and this year's 26's budget, there's a $34,000 increase, which is 18% of the total spend. So when I look down through it, like I'm not seeing like any smoking guns, right? Reasons why, places we can cut. I'm just asking you, is there a thing, if we came back around to and said, geez, this budget in total for the whole town of Pittsfield doesn't work, where can we go with it? Is there some place here that you feel like that we can pull? We're looking for crumbs, right? We're not looking for cookies right now. I realize that, but I also know when you take them all and you put them all in a pool, all together, we gotta be able to. If we have to do a reduction somewhere, hypothetically, is there a spot for that?
Well, we've never increased the book budget or live events. I did increase advertising because my budget of $38 wasn't a place an ad to hire a children's librarian.
can't believe it.
I know. I mean, I'm sure we could take from certain places. I mean, my biggies are obviously wages, contract services,
Right.
that type of thing.
I guess that would be one that is, so the HVAC repairs is in building, building,
Is it in there twice?
it's in building, but then it's in contracts and rental.
That's what I thought.
Well,
too.
So is H,
For regular service, they come and service it. The last time they came to service it, we had a leak
Okay.
and then we.
and then repairs are above and beyond that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then the HVAC contract actually includes the roof contract too. Those are both.
oh,
And
okay,
the roof is not getting any newer.
sure,
And
Yep.
that has issues.
yep. Yeah, some of these contracts we just don't see, so we don't know how they're written, and then, but. I will echo Eric's sentiment that I do enjoy the library, although I haven't been there lately, but. This is just kind of a overall. Looking at the numbers type thing, not anything to
She
do with,
knows, she was here last year.
I do
well,
understand.
last year wasn't bad, the year before
Year
was
before was
worse.
I do understand, and I am a resident of the town and I pay taxes, so I
Sure.
do try to keep things down. I don't know
Right.
if you're aware, we've written grants.
Oh, yeah,
We got a $20,000 Stephen and Tabitha King for the building. As you know, paid for the carpet. We still have other things to do. Jill got a $5,000 grant for children's books, which will help. That's one of the reasons we don't have to increase our book budget. We get
Right.
big donations.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
A private citizen walked in off the street. Her mother is older and needs large print books, and she handed me a check for $500 and said, buy my mother large print books. So things like that,
that's nice, yeah.
you know, and it happens a lot. Fortunately, it helps us a lot.
The majority of these increases are out of your control, obviously.
Yes.
Like they're all,
I can fix this budget very well if I didn't have a building.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, I was just gonna say, most of the
yeah,
issues are with the plant management,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So
Yes.
my
Yeah.
question, I guess, is for Jack, like, we've had efficiency main evaluations on the building here and the public works building and different buildings about like what we can do to reduce the cost of operating the buildings. Have we have that done aside from lighting? Cause that seems like what everybody goes to is like light bulbs, but that's not where you save a lot of money. So I'm wondering about like the conversation about the heat pumps versus the oil. And if there's a way that we can have efficiency main look at our systems that we have and make recommendations like certain times of the year you should be running your oil and more dependent on your oil because it's more effective to heat that way and not with the heat pumps? Or would that be questions for our mechanical services folks or something like that? Because it seems like that's where we might have an opportunity to make some improvements in operations as far as like the heating of the building.
I think that there'd be some value to have like a study done on the current heat pumps, because 09, those are old heat pumps.
Those are,
Those
that's
are-
like
those
first
are-
generation heat pumps.
Yeah.
They're much more efficient now, and so there's kind of a sweet spot of when it's the most efficient, you know. Spring and fall, when it's really not cold enough to turn the oil on, but, you know, too cold to not have something, you know, type of thing. So I'm curious about the efficiency of those old heat pumps and whether,
Or if we get a grant to replace them too.
yeah.
Is somebody servicing those heat pumps on a yearly basis?
It's part of that HVAC.
It is, okay,
It's
Well, that's
AAA
good.
energy
Listen.
right here in town.
hopefully they're being, you know, cleaned and whatnot, because that can kill your efficiencies too. Yeah, I think that would be
That'd be a
worth,
good idea.
I mean, based on that electrical bill, I think it would be worth it.
Are there any revenue opportunities? Like, I don't know much about library, like, I know what goes on to the library, but on the other side of it, is there any way some libraries generate revenue through events and community events and like $5 entrance fee for a certain speaker, or like, is that a thing, or is that really
We
something
get
that?
revenue from Burnham and Detroit for their and any other non-resident town.
Yeah.
Palmyra actually allows me to take the name and address of the person that wants a card and I bill them. And they send a check to the town, so we have that income.
Mhm.
The photocopier at 15 cents a page is generating hundreds. I mean, really, no, there's not, we don't,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess we could charge for events, but that's kind of like part of being a public library, is it's free and open to the public,
yeah,
you know? The friends who are here with me, they, do a lot of fundraising. They do an annual appeal that brings in thousands. They help out with a lot of things that are not paid for by the town. You don't pay for my internet. You don't pay for my email addresses. The friends do that. The friends help by purchasing materials to keep that book budget down, or at least the same for the past 4 or 5 years. And there's fundraising going on besides grant writing with Jill and I. We also got an ALA grant just a couple of months ago for $5,000. We could buy computers for the library, which we did, and then offer classes to the public for free. And use some of the money to buy incentives to get people to come to the classes. And we still have some of that money left over for other things. So where we don't really generate a lot of money, we try to do other things to compensate.
That's great.
And actually, we just got another grant for about 500, so Jill can attend the Maine Library Association conference over in Sunday River in May. So that helps her and helps us. It didn't
Sounds like
cost
you're looking
anything.
for every opportunity. That's
Yes.
so
If I
good.
am.
Yes, that's excellent.
all right. Anybody else have any questions for Donna? And the Friends of the
Donna
Library?
and Friends of the Library.
All right. Not hearing any, so thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so
And
much.
you can stay for the rest, don't,
I can stay for the rest?
you can if you'd like, you don't have to run off, but if you'd like to leave, you can.
Conversations about town council budget.
Tina, are you staying here just for this finance thing? Or you're here for the duration anyway? Okay, all right, well then I'm gonna go top down then, in that case. We will move on to town council, page 1.
Page what? One.
1. Questions, comments, obviously. The only thing that changes is a stipend for counselors, which I personally think, you know, counselors should get some kind of reimbursement for their time. I don't know if this is the time for that, but yeah, I would say it's probably not the time for it, but that's my personal thought, just based on everything else that's going on, so. But
I agree.
yeah, I don't know, I mean,
I agree with
I
you.
do think it needs to be in there eventually, cause I think it helps, recruitment and to keep people coming and getting. You know, I zero it out, but I think we should probably just zero that. If you guys are in agreement.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Pete, yeah, good.
Also, area department, like we did that one.
That was easy.
Yeah, we'll just cut, yeah.
Are people getting paid or not? No, all right.
Well.
Got it.
Bye.
All right, on to the town clerk. Just kidding. Well, there you go, save 10 grand. So, all right, that's town council. Was there nothing else there, obviously, membership dues?
That is what it is, right?
That is what it is.
$200
For
miscellaneous.
Flags,
Yep,
gifts.
that is what it is too. Yep.
Well, yeah,
Is that it?
yeah, that's good. You guys all good on that? Yeah. All right, moving on to page 2, administration. This is the town manager position.
So probably the same, like something we'd want to pay in the future, but maybe not right now.
Right, right. So you'll be pro bono.
No way, no way. We need to keep it.
See, all of this is basically the stuff we hashed out 6 months ago or
Exactly.
3 months ago, whatever it might have been.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to speak up.
So, cell phone.
Yep.
That is one cell phone?
So it's actually, there's a cell phone and internet that goes with that. So that's the only reason cell phone itself would not be that. But there's cell phone and internet.
Do you have a separate cell phone for work?
Yep.
Any other questions for administration?
No.
Excellent. You on a roll, town clerk. Yes, we'll.
Hold on a minute.
Here, town clerk, that's on page 3.
I think we'll keep her.
There's. I didn't have anything. Does anybody have anything?
No, nothing jumping out. It looks like you budget for supplies that don't usually end up using much of it. I tried to.
Well, if you need them, you need them, but.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
All set? All right, next. Going on to finance, page 4. This is the wages for finance director, deputy tax collector, finance, and customer service clerk. And.
Do we have a deputy tax collector?
I was just gonna ask who that is. Who is it?
Tina's tax collector, aren't you?
She's a finance director.
My contract says deputy tax collector, deputy treasurer. I've got 4 personnel and the finance director. Hillary is doing a lot of the the deputy tax collector work.
Right.
Customer service clerk.
That's Angel.
Communications.
That makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Check some, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't have any.
Overtime just for end of year and elections and things like that.
Yeah, there's just times when we need to be taking care of reports and stuff beyond when we close the doors at 5:30.
Mm-hmm. The small.
And then elections are a part of that.
Isn't that paid out of the, like if they're serving for elections, clerks, then don't they get paid out of the elections budget?
That's gonna be,
Historically, yes, if the girls are down here and they have overtime, the election will pay for their overtime. But many times Hillary is here after 5:30, working to complete the report, the cash out reports. And she doesn't put that on her time sheet, but she needs to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, time sensitive type things that need to get done, but you don't have the time to do it. Things. Football? I was just, what's that?
Audit plus $20,000.
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually more than that with a single audit.
Wow.
We do purchases and rentals. Is that for, it says replacement of printers and other equipment. Are you factoring in some laptops there or is that somewhere else? That's on page 5. I was just curious. He had like $3 grand. I just know at one point we were like way behind on replacing laptops and
Oh, we got all new ones. During the pandemic, we went through all new ones.
well, the pandemic was 5 years ago, so.
Well, then it was supposed to be like a certain dollar amount each year.
That's what I'm saying. I wanna make sure. Yeah, I wanna make sure that's doing that.
What are the laptops for?
Or computer, I said laptops, I mean computers, whatever. I know, whatever you might be using. I just wanna make sure that that's continuing and not.
Yeah, we,
10 grand next year, but.
I actually got our, it's called a device audit from our IT folks, and they've got the ages of everything and the warranties expire, and once it gets out of a 5-year window, they start to recommend replacements, so we have that. This is, I think, really more for the smaller things.
Okay.
You know, but we could replace a computer, you know.
Well, there's a couple of places that could go, I just didn't know.
We also have another line, I think, in uncategorized or something here, computers.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't want it to fall by the wayside again.
Right, yeah.
Well, we have the one copier printer, right, the main one, and then there should be, like,
What's wrong?
Tina should have one in her office.
I do.
Okay.
Yep.
And Russell should have one in his office. It always drove me nuts that the code officer had to get out from his office if he's doing something, get up from the computer, walk across the office to the printer to get a piece of paper and then go back to his office to work. It drove me nuts. Is that still the case?
I get moved, that's how,
Yeah.
that's how I get my steps in every day.
Yeah, that's gonna waste a lot of working hours.
Well, your retention though, they get up, move, they're happier, they're having a little.
It's like go to the friends.
They're not siloing. Yeah, good.
It's not very lean, but it's good for the steps.
Yeah.
You know, when they built the.
Motivating
events
to print
office,
this.
bro.
Yeah.
They built that office intentionally so you couldn't look out the window. The windows were high enough so you couldn't see out. That was the idea behind when they built that back in the 70s, when they built it.
Oh.
Yeah. So when I think about stuff like that, I'm like, it'd be nice that we all like big windows, right? Not that.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, things have changed.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions on finance?
What is the trio assessing module? That's something that we always.
That's under assess thing, but yeah, that's okay.
Like
These are
tax
different
assessor.
modules.
That's a,
Okay,
we were,
sorry, different-
no, that's okay. We were on finance, but it's a,
I
yeah,
thought it was still in finance.
The trio software.
That's just under assessment.
Testing module.
Okay.
but it's a yeah, so it's just a different part of the software.
Yeah, AP, payroll, AP, budgetary.
Okay,
So it's a module and then the 17,000 is to have the program
right.
itself?
It's the license every year.
Wow, okay. Are those the only 2 expenses for trio?
Do we have anything besides the, well,
Water sewer is in there too. isn't
Yeah.
it?
Is it?
yeah,
There's water, sewer, utilities. The budgetary, the payroll,
There's
cash receiving.
pricey, but I think they're the only
Sounds like it's the one though.
showing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a competitive product, I would certainly be open to it, but. I've actually looked at a few possible alternatives and I didn't see as much cost savings going to something else, and there's not much to choose from really, but.
Yeah.
There wasn't much cost savings to switch, but there's more functionality and there's, I think, better overall product, maybe for similar money. But it's hard to get, this financial software really any cheaper. Not that I found.
Gotcha.
Any other questions on finance? Good on finance. Any other questions on assessing? Other than the
$45,000 for the revaluation. Is that our last payment for that? Or do we have one more?
No, we are. I think I have the schedule. Took me a little while to get acclimated to the schedule and stuff. So we've been following the first option, even though I know there was some discussion about, both options. We've been kind of on the track with the first option.
Sorry, well, I think. Oh, just. Thank you.
Yeah, so in talking to Rob, he's been doing the quarters. Okay, that's the schedule that he's been on. So I'm basing that number on 2025 being we're in a 6-month budget, but I just didn't see where it was budgeted for. Anything was budgeted for in the 6-month budget. So that's why I'm showing 45 in the FY 25-26, because it's actually what probably would have been billable for this 6-month, plus it's for the next 12 months for 30,000, and then the final piece would be in 2027. So that's basically following that one, and to try to push the timeline up would be a lot of catch up, and it'd be a pretty big hit to the budget now to try to catch up to the option with the option 2 would have cost. But the way I've interpreted this is that the valuation would be completed, the reval would be completed in 2027, and it would be all rolled into the April 1, because it's as of April 1, 2028 commitment. And then in the meantime, what Rob would have to do under that scenario is just do the adjustments that he's been doing, kind of the wholesale adjustments, to keep us within the 85% ability to certify. So that's kind of how it plays out. We get the benefit of the full reval in the 2028 commitment, but in the meantime, the plan would be not to slip below the 85% that we're able to certify.
Okay.
So the adjustment like you did last year. Yeah.
So we didn't have anything in the 6-month budget for paying for the reval because we hadn't anticipated until paying for it until Q3, which would put it into the next budget.
I don't know.
Pretty sure that's what Jacob thought.
Okay, it would just roll into Q3 or.
Because if the assessing contract on a yearly basis is $40,000, then it'd be $20,000 of that would have been in the 6-month budget, which only leaves $8,000, which would cover the.
Yeah, but that's just the reval. So we also have the actual assessing work.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The $40,375 is the actual contract for regular assessing.
Yeah.
So for our 6-month budget for 2025, we had $28,000 in the assessing budget. So half of the regular contract with them would be $20,000, which only leaves $8,000 to cover
Yeah,
the assessing module, which, does that get paid at the beginning of the year, or is that paid on? Like, would all of that have to have been paid in the 6-month budget at the beginning of the year?
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So then there wouldn't have been anything for the reevaluate at all, really, in
Correct.
the 6-month budget.
Correct. Right, I interpreted that 28,000 as not including, just being able to cover our assessing services in Trio and not including anything for Greenville. That's how I interpreted that 28.
So
Because
this
we
is
won't have,
actually, sorry, this is actually for the 2026 commitment, is actually, it's not gonna be 30,000, it's gonna be 45,000.
yeah, so the reval work is continuing right now, even though we don't have a reval number in the budget. So I'm anticipating that as we get past July 1 and we get into the next budget, we'll get a bill for these 6 months. Because he didn't just stop. Right. So I'm just looking at it like the reval work continues, and between January 1, 2025 and June 30th, 2026, we'll have this $15,000 based on this. We'll have this $15,000 plus the 30. And so that's why there's 45 in the 12 is to bring us up to date, keep us on track.
So the extra 15 is the first half of 2025. We're just gonna pay it in the last half of 25 as part of the 26 budget.
Covering the time we're in right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's complicated.
Okay.
We kind of made our 6-month budget look a little bit better by not including it then.
Sounds like Jack understands it, so that's what there's so many people.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just keep the wheels turning, keep Rob working, that's the goal.
Is there any other questions on assessing?
No.
All right. We'll move on to legal services.
Another one, kind of is what it is.
See the year to date, we've blown through our 6-month budget.
Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why. I know my conversations have been few and far between, but.
Yeah, I mean, getting you on board, getting Cornell on board.
There was a lot of communication prior to Jack starting, that whole in between.
But that.
It might also be worthwhile checking the coding to see if there are other things, because there's also legal ones in the code enforcement. And if he had anything that was assessed to this budget instead of the other one.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Then it might be good to look at that and make sure we're looking at the number.
Yeah, that's a good point. Make sure nothing's
because there was that agreement with Black, what was his name? Blackburn, Web Road, Blankenship.
Oh,
there was that agreement.
Which that guy's supposed to pay us back.
Right.
So I don't know if that ever happened.
Income from that, which I doubt we'll receive, but there was also, there might have been some filings or something. That should be in code enforcement and not in regular.
Yeah.
Maybe just any of those legal costs for the first 3 months of take a peek.
And then whether the opinions for the issue with the gates on the road, Taylor Road, whether that would be code enforcement. That's the code enforcement.
Well, so Mr. Lee is not representing us on the Taylor Road anymore because of the conflict. So we have an arrangement with Amanda Meter.
Yeah.
And I just let her know that we're kind of in a, taking no action mode right now. So I really haven't engaged her at all with the issue. Just, if it comes to a point where we need to answer a complaint or something formally so I know that, that issue hasn't contributed to using this line.
If you could just give us like a breakdown of what that is.
That Heartland Avenue property? That was some of the house that had been moved back.
That wasn't in this first 3 months. That would have been last year.
Okay.
But that's,
And I will say too
that worth.
Yeah, I can find out where the.
And if some of that should have gone towards animal control, code enforcement, then it should be.
So we have almost a $4,000 increase here, so are we looking, or well, it's a $2,000 decrease from the 2024 full budget, but it's a $4,000 increase over what was actually spent in 2024. So do we think there's something else coming down the road that we need more funding for, or?
Well, on a lot of these, like this is a good example. I looked at last year's budget of the last 12-month budget of 19, and then I looked at the previous year 13.1, and then I looked at the year before 17.7, and I'm like, okay, you know, it probably didn't need to be 19, but maybe 17 is a little more on point, and you never know. You could have a year where it's pretty quiet, you know, and you don't use, you know, much of it, and then you have, although you're gonna use a fair amount, I think, just in a regular course of business. But I will say that through the Maine Municipal Association membership, we can use their legal services, and they don't represent us, so they don't actually give official legal advice, but they do offer, they will advise, I should say, they don't do legal advice. They will advise us on things. And if it's something that I feel is appropriate for MMA legal to answer, just to kind of help steer my thinking, I'll use them because it's free, basically, and save those calls for ones that are more necessary, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think as you settle, you'll figure out how much of that you feel comfortable with. You'll define your groove and see what you think is needed.
I think we'll just put a pin in it until we get better clarification of the 13. Maybe it can come then. Yeah, okay. Any other questions on legal stuff? All right, moving on to elections. Pretty self-explanatory. It's not a presidential election, so that's probably why the decrease, I would guess.
Yeah.
I know that's why we ramped it up last year. Was because of that, so. Any questions on that? Nope. All right, municipal building.
This is my time.
That?
Every time this rolls around, have we got a generator for this building yet?
Oh. Got a generator for this building? I don't think so, right?
I haven't seen one.
So I thought that Donnie, because it got forgotten in the first 6-month budget, and I thought they found money allocated
Wasn't there a grant?
to make that happen.
There was a grant
For the
that was
municipal?
paid for a generator.
And then they had to find it because post-COVID, it was really hard to find it or
This
something.
has been ongoing since I started the
Oh,
council.
before.
Do they have the
Yeah, it was
money?
the year before I started counting. So it's been over 5 years.
Been since before.
And it was
okay.
put in the budget at one point and somewhere it didn't get purchased.
Yeah.
And then we had a grant that slipped through our hands and it didn't get purchased.
Mm.
And then it was put,
Sounds about right.
I'm pretty sure it got put back in the budget in this last 6-month budget. Cause I know I brought it up, I'm sitting in the audience. I bring it up every time.
Well, if you got.
So Donnie should be able to maybe help you with that.
Okay, I'll try to get up to speed. Would it be one that's like a permanent on a pad
It
outside?
was something for this building, so this building had a
It
backup
was to-
generator.
Yeah, we have one, but, or there is one, but it's not big enough to actually run much more than like a computer and a telephone. It's not big enough.
Okay.
But they spec'd it out, I think, Chief Williams was looking to source it and Donnie was gonna help him find it. And they were talking about maybe finding a used one or a surplus National Guard, something, I don't know, but, it's a
Been
project.
ongoing
Yeah.
It's a project.
for many years.
We'll see if we can nail that down and get that in here happening.
It might be under CIP actually,
That'd be
if there was funds in
That
it
way,
at some point in the budget.
Even
it
in the
might have
storm,
been
you can
CIP.
stay right here and keep
And
working.
I was thinking, I'm like, is that because we want the building to stay open,
Yeah.
even if there's no power?
Keep people on a track.
I wanna get my car registered, I don't care if there's no power. Coming in.
It happens.
Yeah, I don't,
The budget for, general cleaning and bathroom and whatnot, 1005.
yeah,
We only spent, it was budgeted for 3,000, but we've never spent more than 1,000 in the last 3 years.
yeah, and we haven't spent anything year to date.
We'll reduce that.
Yeah, you guys can-
Would that be in the general cleaning contract or?
Yeah.
Just the cleaner provide all the supplies.
Isn't that Riverside?
What do we
Um,
buy?
Yeah, it's Riverside and I think she does supply I haven't, the bags, trash bags I purchase.
Okay.
But I don't buy any cleaning supplies.
Are they being paid somewhere else in the budget
I'd
then,
say
if we're
10,
purchasing them and it's not showing up here?
Never spent.
Or maybe
They-
it just hasn't hit yet, if it's like every 3 months you buy trash bags or something like that.
It's 2505 cleaning contract. So cleaning bathroom and kitchen supplies.
I took that to mean like the extra things that you all might want,
Yeah,
but 3,000 seems like a lot, 1,500 looks from this, like it would be a safe and reasonable number to go with.
Good with that, $1,500?
Comfortable, yep.
Never spent more than 1,000, so I think it's safe, or in the last 3 years we haven't anyway. Contracts. Guessing that cleaning contract just went up probably, so kinda. We had never spent more than like 17,000.
Honestly, I don't think I projected that as an increase, only because, I think I just referenced the last number in the last 12-month budget, so. You know, it probably won't be any less than that, but I don't think I put any like percentage on top of.
Cause the 24 actual was only 15,
Yeah.
you're up to 22.5.
Did we not have HVAC services
I mean-
or the elevator inspection?
No, we've always said that,
Yeah, we have to have our piece of
What the
paper.
heck?
Well, the
Miscellaneous repair.
Miscellaneous. Did they just not clean as much then? Because the cleaning contract is more than the total amount of.
No, I'm like, was it in the wrong category?
Cleaning
If you got
contract.
$3,700 just in contractual expenses
Um,
aside from the cleaning.
Sure, I just took the number from the last 12-month budget, because a lot of these, I didn't.
Well, Jacob projected 20 grand over a 12-month budget, so you're not far out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one, yeah, I would probably leave it. Backing up to the 3,500 on 1515. I thought that stood out as looking a little high compared to prior years. Except for the 2024 actual, but
2024, we changed all the locks, I mean.
okay,
That's
so that
probably why
explains
that
that.
was expensive.
What do you guys think about dropping that down a little bit? I mean, our 2025 budget and our actual year to date, as well as the 2023 actual, are much lower than the 3,500. Unless you know of any projects on deck that are gonna require them.
We've had a few calls to, it was main drain, because of, one of the restrooms drains.
Okay.
I guess my only question about something like that is it wouldn't take a major repair
Chew that up.
to chew it up and put it down in that.
Yep.
Alright.
Alright.
Electricity again, high everywhere. That
Yeah.
just is what it is.
Yeah. It's projecting high anyway. Alright, any other?
No.
Oh, it's, I guess there's, yeah, the contracts and rentals just seem a little high to me, but. But, whatever.
I mean, if you know what, so this, really the only wiggle room there is a $3,000 miscellaneous repair, that's not very much.
But you have.
But you have-
between maintenance
but you have
and
ma-
that,
yeah.
You've got $7,600
$70,000.
That is true.
in repairs.
That's
in the building.
That is true.
So maybe that doesn't, miscellaneous repairs don't belong there, it belongs up, unless those miscellaneous repairs are for the elevator or for HVAC.
Probably are.
Could chew that up real quick.
Yeah, it would.
Yep.
Versus electrical, plumbing and locksmith.
What I'm curious about is, just to go over the contract and make sure that that's pegged to the 15,750. Because that might be the only, if anything's off, I don't think anything else would really be off too much, but then I can circle back to look at that contract and see how it's broken up. Between,
That's for the library and the municipal building, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cleaning.
cleaning, library.
It's the
Library
same
and
company that does. both.
Yeah, same company, but they have separate.
Yeah.
Dollar amounts.
So we have, almost a $3,000 increase in electricity and a $4,000 increase in, in heating. That's quite a lot.
Spent $4,500 in the first quarter so far. You're actually projecting well, if you carry that out.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little, it might be a little on the high side as far as.
Constellation. The constellation.
Yeah, okay, so that's.
Yeah, what was that? I saw that in that. I was asking Jason earlier.
So apparently we were under a contract, so in other words, instead of buying a standard offer for electricity, we had a contract for a certain number of years, and I don't know if it was 3 years or I can't remember the length of it, but it expired in, I think, November. So we've kind of gone back to the standard offer with electricity, and the pricing has gone up to try to lock into a 2 or 3 year price now compared to last fall is definitely different. And that's something we could look at, is if we thought that electricity was going to continue to go up, we could get a better deal by locking in for, say, a year or two at a certain price. It would give us some certainty. Otherwise, we could see if things are going to level off, and maybe those contract prices might decline a little bit if the picture looked a little bit better. It's just one of those things, but we think part of looking at the history to now is we were in a contract that discounted electricity from the standard offer, and we're not there now.
So that contract would have been beneficial to have it.
In hindsight, absolutely. In hindsight, yeah.
You just never know.
You don't.
You don't know.
So having certain numbers for budgeting purposes is wonderful, I think. I think would be beneficial for that. At the same time, raise your hand if you've ever heard of electricity becoming less expensive.
I know.
It may, I don't know how it would hurt us to have even though we're going into it at a higher price now rather than in the fall, but overall, it's not gonna get less expensive.
So it won't take me long to get numbers, to show you, like basically options. If we wanted to lock in for 12 months, we want to do 24 or 36, what the pricing would be. And we can have that discussion over the next, few weeks or, a few meetings, and we can lock it in.
And would that cover all of our electric rates or just the one for the municipal building?
All of them.
So cover everything. So that would help across the budget.
The library.
Everybody, yeah.
The library and, maybe the heat pump issue becomes moot aside from that old, but.
Well, I think it just protects us on the upside, so we know.
If we can protect ourselves from anticipated increases in the future, I think that's like a really good thing right now.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions on municipal building?
No.
All right, we're moving on. Economic development. Questions here, the big change is the comprehensive plan for 50K. Which
Didn't we
we
put that?
put that in,
Or we already put that for
I was in this 6-month budget.
6-month budget with
With
some of
that.
that grant
It
funding.
would have been the grant funding, no?
Yeah, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I don't know how that washes out. I think you were trying to figure that out a little bit.
Yeah, I think with the uncertainty surrounding that whole thing, I think the safe way to make sure we can get this started and finished would be to budget for it, and then if we didn't need to use it, then that would be something we would have to offset next year.
If we put it in the budget as comprehensive plan and then we end up being able to utilize grant funding for it, would we be able to utilize the funds for implementing items for the comprehensive plan? Or is it just for contract for the plan?
I mean, this is,
Resolution.
I think that was
just for contract.
I think if you went back and revisited it and said, hey, we didn't need to use this 50,000, then the council could pass a resolution to say we would like to, appropriate it for whatever that purpose would be. But this is pretty much just to make sure that we, either way, whether it's grant funding or not, we can get this started and get it going.
Yeah, and we have to do that.
Are we changing our membership dues structure up on 0530? It's always been, well, it was 100, 375, 512, and now we have budgeted 200.
So I'm not sure exactly what, and I could go look what economic development organization that membership paid for. But I think if there's going to be any membership in an economic development organization, that you would just need a minimal amount. So that's why I thought, probably, take it down a little bit from the 375. But I have to go back and look and see if that was something the town joined or something that, an employee joined for, under economic development.
So there's 2022 actual was $6,400. 2023 actual was $442. And the 2024 actual was $570.
Well, that's the health insurance.
Yeah, so that.
And that's, that was, yeah, that was Catherine's position.
Oh, okay.
For the grant administrator. And then that went away, so.
And all the personnel things got being categorized.
Yes.
Well,
to insurance, yeah.
That's right, but the only personnel in economic development was grant administrator. And that position is not in there now, so that's why you see that. Oh, and that's probably the membership difference as well. Was whatever membership she was part of. Any other questions? Although economic development, rentals, and contract, internet, website, and Zoom.
What is that for?
Yeah, so you pay our web host, Civic Plus. that's that price annually.
Is that out of economic development?
Yeah,
It
I mean,
is?
that's where it's been.
That's where the website's live.
That's where what?
I thought we had it
That's where
earlier.
the website lives, is like in the
Yeah.
economic development.
Website earlier. Okay, maybe not. I thought it was in,
Yeah, I thought it was too.
something else. No, I thought it was in like finance or something.
I think this was where we were budgeting for Catalyst, which is the current host.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then that's the internet for everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, you look at the actuals, it's always that same thing, so.
That 1,600, I think is gonna be the internet, like first. And can you correct me, would that be where we pay the Spectrum bill?
Yes, the internet for, no, I'm sorry. There is a town, Spectrum bill that, that we do pay, and it does come out of this one. So, there's also.
Separate from our building internet?
Yeah.
I wonder what that is.
Is that for connectivity at other buildings?
There's a Spectrum bill for the water department, the water sewer department, and
But
there's.
they would pay for that.
That they pay for, and the police also pay for a Spectrum.
What about public works? Do they have service down there?
No,
And the library pays for their own.
they have the state.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we can verify it, but I'm pretty sure it's the Spectrum bill for this building.
Would that be under the municipal building? Yeah, maybe not, okay. Yeah. All right,
So website, that cost, what does that cost include?
That is for basically us to operate that site for us. Yeah, so it's basically it's their site. We can go in and they, like, right now they're building it for us, so the price to get set up with them, I think, was $5 something, but then annually we pay them an annual fee to host it, to basically use their platform.
Who makes changes on it?
Depends on the kind of change. I think there's some of them we can do.
Okay.
But a few changes we can do, and then some we have to get them to help us do.
Nice.
Yeah.
that first park assessment, see the actual in 2024 was $7,000. So we haven't spent anything this year to date. We have 7,500 budgeted.
Yeah.
Did we pay it in 2024? It looks like it might be split into 2 payments. Or is it just one assessment?
That's my question. I don't know.
Because I know I called and I got the number.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so I know that's what we're gonna owe them over a 12-month period.
The 14,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I am curious why we only did 7174 for the 12-month period of 2024.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm curious about that.
You probably owe them $7,500 for the 2025 budget.
Well, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I have no idea.
It looks like we do.
Depends
Well, you know,
where it comes out.
well, yeah, because 24, 25.
Yeah.
Is you know,
That makes
right
sense.
now, you know, for any.
Oh,
anyone
because
in
that first
fiscal-
part says a fiscal year.
Yeah,
That's why.
that's why I had that.
Yeah, that's,
So that's gonna, okay. So we kind of.
so you're good. Yeah. You just need to pay that probably.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions for economic development?
No. What is, there's miscellaneous. Community recognition, miscellaneous $15,000. 6515 is the line number.
Yeah, so that's 300, and then that next line is a subtotal.
That's the total, that's the subtotal. I did the, Heather, I did that twice
Well,
last
it's
Tuesday.
not a total underneath.
I did the same thing
It's
twice. I
confusing.
was like, gosh, I have to get my eyes acclimated.
Yeah, I have to remind myself that anything indented is a subtotal.
Yeah, this time I've got it.
Yeah, yeah, because
Well, then the next one should be indented even more then.
Right, that's right.
Lot of indents. Alright. Everybody good though?
Yeah.
Alright. Moving on to code enforcement.
What's that?
well,
Page 12?
no.
Do I write that?
Code enforcement. On the bottom of page 11, it runs on its own.
Okay.
Yes, actually starts on 11, but then it runs to
Oh,
12.
I see.
Okay.
His salary's on page 11. So. Any comments on that? I didn't have any, honestly. Code related legal services of 13,000.
Is that where some of the legal fees that we were looking for might reside?
Could, but not sure.
Yeah, because especially looking at year to date.
He's only done $110.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's been anything, I can see right.
He's probably done something.
Yeah, it's probably put in that other category. Yeah.
So get that straightened out maybe.
Other than that, nothing stood out to me as unusual.
To maintain the 13,000, we only ever spent 10,
Well, I think you
but
need,
we also didn't finish
I never finished that at all.
the two things that we wanted to do. They
Well,
told us we shouldn't.
yeah, well, but there's plenty of, there's Somerset Ave house.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of
There's
things.
plenty of houses.
We need to be on both.
Right, that one needs to get taken care of, which we can talk about that later, but. Yeah, I didn't see anything, and there's plenty of houses that we should back down, say.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments on that? Good.
Okay, speaking of crackdown, that was one thing I meant to mention. See, I did have something I forgot. Do we have somebody that's dealing with that Somerset Plaza? Have you tried going down and around at Dunkin' Donuts? I fell in one of those crevices the other day, and it was like treacherous.
Yeah.
I don't know how that will work.
Is that code enforcement?
So, I know that Russell has gotten inundated with phone calls.
Yeah.
Probably.
I would assume so.
Not a week goes by where he doesn't get multiple. What's difficult is that it's private property.
Yeah.
And, our ability to we have pretty explicit ability to deal with dangerous buildings. It's not so cut and dry when you're talking about the condition of a roadway or driveway or access or parking and things like that. I think realistically, if there was anything spelled out in the site plan review originally, I don't know how long ago that
Wasn't that long ago.
place was
Part
built.
of Dunkin' Donuts. Well,
Well, the original plaza versus.
according to that gentleman that owns it, he says it's the responsibility of the Dunkin' Donuts.
Just the entrances and exit.
Right, so you'd wanna look at that and then. like
So
I say,
that's, yeah, according to him, that was definitely,
Right,
because I made an inadvertently stayed at the hotel that he owned the first time we had the problem. When
yeah,
I was snowmobiling and then bumped into him. And
Yeah.
had, both me and my wife had a good conversation with him,
yeah,
to say the least.
yeah,
So it sounds like privately, next time my vehicle falls in one of those holes, we're gonna have to go after them for damages. And that'll make them push things along because it's bad.
Maybe share his phone number.
Real
People
bad.
start reaching out to him directly.
Yeah,
I would think it would be a public danger, the way some of those holes are. And when they filled up with rain, with this last rain, you can't even tell where they are.
Yeah, that's
All of a
true.
sudden you fall in one.
yeah.
That's-
Dunkin' Donuts, it's a good thing.
But this is even going
It's
to,
even over by bugs
it's
though.
going to the parts.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Going around that section. I mean, it is
I know
at the
an
entrance and exit.
Elderly lady that fell in one of the holes leaving bugs.
Yeah.
She fell down. purchase them.
There is some smaller ones up there, but there's some big ones down by the parts store, auto parts store.
I think it's worth having a conversation, you know, and utilizing a little bit of that legal budget, but I know that there's just certain avenues that we can pursue when it comes to, you know, dangerous, you know, conditions on a property, and part of the equation is if you get a land use permit and things are specified that you're allowed to develop according to A, B, and C, and you don't do something, then that becomes something we can enforce. But you know, we just need to know where we start and stop.
I meant to bring that up. Side note.
Yeah, that's all right.
Glad you did.
We'll keep on that, because that's, yeah.
Every time you drive in there, it's like a game of watch it out.
Well, the other day it was with rain, right, so you couldn't see what the holes were.
I thought that was bad.
Moving on to general assistance, page 37. Yeah, you know, see any kind of trend going? I see once we've started cracking down on just giving out money, that actual went way down.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual year to date is way down, so that's good.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with the 8,000? Do you think that could be lower or not? Hesitant.
I think that's about as low as you could realistically go. You can,
Okay.
you can have maybe an exceptional year. I mean, I'm a little curious about 22 and 24, but I think.
Oh, I'm more curious about 23.
Me too.
That's the outlier, not the other two.
Oh, 22 and 24, yeah, 23.
23 is the outlier.
Yeah.
Well, 25, we had in the warrant tonight, there was a funeral in there. It was over $2,000. So that's gonna go to the 2025 budget.
Yeah, it was $1,200.
Was it 1,200?
Yeah.
I think. 20.
Okay.
But
Yeah, so on
2023 is the outlier.
Yeah, so on your budget sheet, this is this is as of a few weeks ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, we do have
No, that's
money in
yeah.
charge there.
Okay, so you're comfortable with that? That's
I'm
fine.
good with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody else got a question on general assistance?
Good.
All right, unclassified expenditures, page 38. The only thing I wasn't sure, what's that, overlay abatement? I didn't know what that was. 4015. That's where you budget 0, but then you have to do something, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, budget 0, but if somebody comes in and said, hey, there's a mistake on my tax bill, and you tax me on 5 acres and I only have 3.5,
Yeah.
you know, we say okay.
But you can never really, you can't put a dollar amount in there, right? Yeah, okay.
I know this isn't a number that we can do anything with, but what is a hydrant rental?
Yeah, so it's the water district has to charge, when they set rates, they have to charge a percentage of their overall budget to public fire protection. So when they, on the water side of things, when they bring their rate case to the PUC, it has to be a proportionate amount within an allowance of public fire protection. But basically what we're doing is paying that to ourselves, right? And then that is relief for the water ratepayers. It's us paying our share of the water system, which is from public fire protection.
The water ratepayers don't use the hydrants, the town.
Correct.
Uses the hydrants.
It's under the water district's budget to maintain the hydrants, but it's not all on the ratepayers. It's, I don't know, a piece of the pie comes back to the public.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So just have two other quick comments. Was the travel actual for 2022. Everything else was always 0. That went up to $8,300 in 2022.
Where?
05 Tech 20 travel.
Oh, I see.
that stood out to me, and then which I guess maybe the audit will show something, but
You wanna know what
But
the
then-
charge for 2022 was?
yeah, just, I mean, everything else was zero, that's almost $8,500.
Yeah.
But, and then the other thing was that computer upgrade, I see, we budgeted in 2024, but nothing was spent. 2025, we budgeted $2,500, nothing spent. So that's where I was a little concerned that we're budgeting it, but nobody's purchasing these.
Yeah.
So I would hope
Tina just got a new computer, so.
perfect.
Mine died.
We perfect.
I was afraid.
We purchased one. Awesome.
So
Yeah, okay.
We're dipping into that to make sure nobody's actually dies right in mid.
Yeah, right, still coming off.
Mid-typing.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why we
Yep.
And
try to get ahead of it.
And that was one of the issues with our emails is we had, even before we've done this work, emails were residing on computers instead of being out of the
cloud.
So the emails are at risk of dying with the computer.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
we're getting out of that scenario. And
Oh, good.
When most of my emails are invoices, yeah.
Yeah, if you wanna be able to pull up any email you need from anytime, yeah, good call. What contingency, is that just in case fund?
in case,
Yeah.
we're just hit with something out of left field.
Educational incentive, what goes in there?
Yeah, I was curious on that
My
actually.
trainings, or anybody's trainings.
Trainings, I thought we had conferences budgeted separately.
I think it's to reimburse people for out of pocket
School.
training, and it might be, I'm thinking that there's a provision in the collective bargaining agreement with PD maybe, where if they attain certain education after they've attained it, then they could be reimbursed for some part of it. So we created an incentive if they're willing to do it and follow through.
So then once upon completion, they can submit for reimbursement for their.
I think that's how it works, but I'd have to dig into it and find out, you know, if it's only there or there's something more general.
I see, so separate from a conference that we would pay to send them to.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. No other questions for me.
Town reports, we used to have 50 town reports that people could pick up. In the town office, are we not doing that anymore? Did it get put under economic development?
I'm not sure, I'm guessing it's probably just something that's online at this point, versus printed, but I'm not sure.
We should have some printed, like, usually it looks like that and a little bit thicker. But we should have something available for the public in the office aside from just saying it's online. It's because not, even if we just put it at the library, so that it's available at the library for people to check out or something.
Put it in the library, 15 cents a piece.
Put it online, they can print, take it with them.
It's always been zero.
You're connecting for your ears off your hair.
I think it might have been economic development.
No, we're not printing that, it's not getting in color.
And it was all day today.
Oh.
Somebody asked for it to be printed, they could have it printed.
Hey, ink's not cheap. I'm trying to buy something, my home printer's expensive.
Yeah.
Well, it's 2 sections.
All right, where are we at?
Ready to roll?
Yeah.
Last 2, page
Huh?
40. Yep.
Social and community services, page 40.
Lester Somerville should definitely mix that up.
I got nothing for
No, I didn't have any questions either. I guess I just want to say I was glad to see the senior citizen budget increased a little bit, so they have some funds to do what they like with, because we hear a lot about that group like activities. Good.
that. All right. Any
And
other comments?
About that though.
Okay.
Previous, budgetary discussions, and this is actually tied into PD and animal control. There's been a big issues around cats, and they're going to just what's it called, Spirits Place or something? And he's using them for all the cat services, because oftentimes the Waterville shelter doesn't accept cats, they're full or they've got disease or something, and they're not accepting them. And the counselor's last budget go round said, you know, like, we shouldn't be paying them for services, they're 501c3, but should that be reflected in the social services? And have a line here so that we're actually paying them for the services that they're providing? Or do you wanna talk to Russell about that and find out what that actually is? I think he was supposed to give us like a report of like how many cats it is and.
Can I comment about that as a resident?
Yeah.
So I have a feral cat community on my property. And she has fixed over the last year and a half, she's fixed 10 cats for me. For free.
At Spirits?
Yes.
Yeah.
Charges nothing.
Right.
I take them back because there's nowhere to give cats, nobody wants them. So she fixes them so they'll keep reproducing, gives them shots, treatment for fleas and whatever. And she never charges a dime. So me, as my own personal residence, I've had her fix over 10 cats for nothing.
Yeah.
So I could just say that as one person. And she is more than happy to come here and ever talk to you guys if you wanted about some of it. If you ever were interested.
I guess my biggest concern too is that, you know, it's obviously a service that we've been using for a couple years. And we've never paid anything towards the services for that, and I don't think that that's right. I think that we should be paying for what the town is using, much like we pay for our water hydrants and other things that we have for people. And maybe we have a contract with her to just know that we can bring all the cats there and Waterville just does the dogs, or I don't know, but that maybe that's a conversation with Russell to figure out, and you know, how much are we using the services?
I'm gonna think about, yeah.
But it seemed like a lot of the cat calls that he was getting was for cats.
It's definitely our.
I know he gets a lot,
Yeah, so it's an issue.
They're,
You know,
it's so gross.
well, I'm out in the middle of I'm literally in the middle of a 100-acre plot. And there was a cat walking across my front yard, and I'm like, there's a cat in our yard, and it's not ours. You know, and it's just appeared out of nowhere.
Where does the last section start? I can't find it.
Page 11.
Thank you.
Page 11, insurance and benefits. In my.
So when we come, sorry, will we come back to that when Russell's in here for code, or?
Well, he was gonna be here, for code, because it was tonight, but he told me he had an animal control call, and he was gonna get here as soon as he could. But I'll ask him to, maybe come just next week, and also we'll have him do a report and kind of bring us up to speed on some of the things you guys mentioned before, and, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess I would just, health insurance, I would assume is gone up.
So, yeah.
$100,000 more than 2024 actual.
Yeah, so our premium went up, like 9% this year.
Yeah.
But we can take that number down and take that 454, 320 down, because last week we cut that last full-time position. Public Works, and we upped the part-time.
Yeah.
So that takes a plan.
That'll be 26 full-time employees. Instead of 27.
Yep, and that would be bringing down to 437, 495.
And then.
Say that again,
437, 495.
instead of 454. Wait a minute, where?
So in the 2026 column under health insurance, that 454, 320 turns into 437, 495.
Thank you.
Okay.
Too many numbers.
The insurance policy, is that good? I can't imagine that's gone down, is it?
No, but I had trouble getting my head around 2022 actual, 2023 actual, and then 2024 actual jumping, like doubling almost.
Right.
So had some injuries, maybe that what caused that, or possibly. And so maybe this 105 is wishful thinking, but I don't know.
Sure.
I just think that.
I mean, if the 26.5 500 is through, 3 months, I guess that projects fairly close. Not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I saw the decrease and I was like, that doesn't seem right. But I'll take it.
I think,
The fact that we bought a new truck for public work or water sewer.
so there's always, it's like kind of a dynamic situation because you're always adding and deleting, right?
Yeah.
So. You add a truck which takes it out of service, so so that does contribute to premium increases when you're upgrading equipment.
Sure.
One thing that I'm doing is I'm looking at equipment and, right now we have collision on just about everything. And there's some things that have just aged out of the point of just get liability only and not pay for collision on something that's, might book for $5,000, $4,000.
Right. Yeah.
Something like that. So I think that if we're really kind of strategic about the coverage and stuff, we can get more for our money. I'm not saying I can bring that number down a whole lot, we can get better coverage for maybe.
Because anything that water and sewer is using would be under a water and sewer insurance.
So
I
asked that question when I was with the agents, do you prorate our water and sewer, and they don't. So I said, so what we're doing now is we're flagging everything on the schedules for water and sewer, and then they're gonna prorate the premium so that I can come back basically and say, out of this piece of pie, we're, whatever percent, and then show those percentages. But we have not been breaking them out that I can see in the past.
It's just a general policy.
Is it everything? Yeah, all funds.
Well, they should at least get we should get revenue from water and sewer to pay that portion.
Right.
Or something.
But we'd have to put it in their budget to spend it for ourselves.
No, I know that. Yeah, but it should be. I think that's how it should be handled.
It should be, right, yeah, so we have to just get to the point of, figuring how much their share is.
Yeah.
So you're doing a whole audit to make sure that what we have is on there and what we don't have is not on there, and then the aging and everything.
Yeah, make sure that everything's on, everything's off, it should be off. Try to see what, just doesn't make any sense to carry collision off, stuff that's too old. And then sometimes you have scheduled values, and we're going and looking at the scheduled value to see if that's too high. Because if it's a scheduled value, they don't pay you that value on a loss. They only pay you what it actually books for. But they'll base the premium on that scheduled value. So it doesn't, it hurts us if any of those scheduled values too high. So we're looking at that.
Okay.
And I don't know if they do it, but I know for our farm insurance, there's always like a percent built in each year for buildings and stuff. If you do like 3 or 4%, they just automatically increase your values without even like telling you.
Well, they do, because property's insured at a replacement cost. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna say, well, they're just gonna apply inflation, say it's gonna cost 4 or 5% more in 2025 to replace, any building than, a year ago, or even more. They got out of hand, like right after COVID, building costs went up. They were in high single digits, if not low double digits, on the insurance premiums. So yeah.
Any other questions on insurance? Alrighty.
It's expensive, you have to have it.
Yeah.
You wish you had.
Well, that completes all of the topics for this evening on budgetary items. We will have a budgetary meeting next Tuesday at 6:30. And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Georgia.